The planet Virex was burning under a red sky. Explosions lit up the land as massive black warships from the Zarth Empire hovered above, raining down fire on helpless cities. The air was filled with smoke, screams, and the buzzing hum of energy. Cannons. Deep in the mountains of Valtor, hidden inside an ancient stone temple, a group of alien warriors had gathered around a strange black sword stuck in a stone platform. The blade was huge, dark, and humming with power. No one had ever pulled it out. Some said it was cursed. Others believed it belonged to a god. But one thing was clear. It was not meant to be touched, especially not by a human. Among the group stood General Solara, a tall and fearsome warrior from the Zarth Empire. Her silver skin shimmered under the torchlight, and her eyes were a cold blue that made others turn away. She was feared across star systems, known for leading conquests without mercy. Her armor gleamed like a mirror, and her voice cut sharper than any blade. Chained beside her, bruised and bleeding, was a human prisoner, Lieutenant Jason Rain. His face was marked with cuts, and his uniform was torn, but he stood tall, even with blood running down his arms. Solara looked at him with a cruel smile. "You humans are weak," she said. "You touched the sword earlier, didn't you? That was funny." She laughed, and the other aliens chuckled with her. Jason didn't answer. He kept his eyes on the sword. It stood in the center of the chamber, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Something about it felt familiar, almost like it was calling to him. Solara noticed and raised an eyebrow. "Don't tell me you're thinking of touching it again," she said with a mocking voice. "Try, and it'll kill you." But Jason stepped forward, dragging his broken body with effort. His chains clinked with each movement. His hand reached out slowly, fingers trembling. The aliens around him watched, in silence, expecting him to die the moment he touched it. But the moment Jason's hand rested on the hilt, the chamber shook. A low sound filled the air like thunder under the ground. The torch flames flickered. Wind rushed in from nowhere. Solara's amusement faded. Her smile turned into confusion, then fear. "No, no," she muttered. "It's not possible." Jason gritted his teeth and pulled. The stone cracked, dust rose, and the sword slid out like it had been waiting for him all along. It pulsed with power, glowing red, then white-hot, then deep gold. Jason stood taller, the chains breaking off him like they were made of paper. His wounds healed in seconds. His eyes turned golden, reflecting the blade. The sword floated in his hand like it knew him. Solara took a step back, face pale. "He pulled it," one of her guards whispered. The human pulled the sword. No one laughed now. The mountain shook harder. Outside, lightning split the sky. Inside, the stone temple began to crack. Jason looked at Solara with new strength in his eyes. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The look on her face said everything: shock, fear, disbelief. A moment ago, he was just a prisoner. Now, he was something else. Something dangerous. The sword had chosen him. And nothing in the galaxy would be the same again. The moment Jason pulled the sword from the stone, everything changed. The sword began to glow with a powerful red light that soon turned into a bright golden flame. It was as if the ancient weapon held a life of its own. Jason's wounds healed quickly, and the chains that had held him broke apart without any effort. His eyes shone with a strange golden color, filled with strength and energy beyond what any human had ever shown. The warriors who had once laughed at him now stared in silence, fear replacing their mockery. General Solara, the proud and mighty leader of the alien forces, stepped back with wide eyes. She could not believe what she was seeing. How could a human pull the legendary sword of Orden, a weapon meant only for the strongest of the Zarth Empire? Jason didn't wait for more questions or threats. He gripped the sword tightly and charged forward with a fierce cry. The energy from the sword created a powerful wave that threw Solara and her guards backward. The ground shook and cracked beneath their feet, and the ancient mountain temple trembled like it was about to collapse. Jason ran through the temple, moving faster than he ever thought possible. His body felt light and strong, as if the sword was giving him strength from some hidden source. He broke through the guards trying to stop him without hesitation, pushing past shattered stones and broken walls. His mind was clear. There was no time to waste. Below the mountain, in a canyon, surrounded by dark cliffs, the rebel ship named the Phoenix waited. Inside it, Captain Marin was preparing the last of her crew for a desperate escape. She was a strong and determined leader, used to hard fights and impossible missions. When Jason finally arrived at the ship, glowing with the sword's power, and clearly changed, Marin was shocked. "You pulled it," she said, almost not believing her eyes. Jason nodded. "I didn't mean to, but I know what we have to do now. The sword showed me the way." The rebels were surrounded and outnumbered. Above, the Zarth warships blocked any chance of escape, firing relentlessly. Cities on the planet were burning, and their people were losing hope. But Jason carried something new, a weapon that could change the war. The sword was not just a blade, it was a key to victory. The Phoenix launched into the sky as the enemy closed in. Jason stood on the bridge, sword in hand, ready to fight. His mind raced with the images the sword showed him: enemy positions, hidden weaknesses, paths through the fleet's defenses. Captain Marin gave the order to move forward, guiding the ship and the few remaining fighters into battle. The space around them exploded with fire and energy blasts. The rebels fought hard, but every second counted. Jason's power made him faster and stronger, able to command the ship's weapons with precision. He could sense the enemy's moves before they happened. Yet, despite their skill and the sword's magic, the Zarth fleet was overwhelming. They came in waves, their massive cruisers shooting plasma and missiles. Still, Jason's hope grew. He knew where the enemy's command center was, hidden deep inside the largest ship, the one where General Solara waited. It was the heart of the Zarth Empire's control. If they could destroy it, the war might be won. Jason told Marin everything he saw and planned. The ship changed course, racing toward the flagship. The crew prepared for the final battle. But Solara was ready too. She stood on the deck of her ship, surrounded by her best soldiers. Her eyes burned with anger and hatred toward the human who had dared to pull the sword. She smiled a cold, dangerous smile and whispered, "This ends now." Jason looked at her without fear. The sword in his hand burned with power. He knew this fight would decide the fate of many worlds. The moment had come. The war was no longer just about ships and weapons. It was about will, courage, and the power hidden deep inside one human soldier. Jason's heart thundered as the Phoenix surged toward the massive Zarth flagship, a towering warship that blotched out the stars like a dark mountain in space. The bridge crackled with tension as alarms screamed and lasers blazed all around. Jason's grip tightened on the glowing sword of Orden, the ancient weapon humming with a fierce power that seemed alive, responding to his every thought. Captain Marin stood beside him, her face set with determination, eyes scanning the chaotic battle outside. The rebel fleet was scattered and battered, struggling to hold the line against overwhelming enemy numbers. Their small ships darted and weaved, dodging devastating plasma blasts that tore through space like deadly lightning. Despite the danger, Jason felt a calm rising within him, the sword filling him with strength and clarity. The sword's power unlocked visions, paths through enemy defenses, weak points in the colossal flagship's armor, secret corridors known only to the Zarth elite. The battle was a deadly dance. The Phoenix weaved through explosions, narrowly, avoiding enemy fighters and the heavy fire from cruiser cannons. Jason's voice rang out, directing the crew as if the sword itself spoke through him. "Prepare for boarding. Target the command deck." The crew, inspired by his newfound energy, moved with quick precision. When the Phoenix finally latched onto the flagship, the boarding party sprang into action. Jason led the charge, sword blazing, as they stormed the enemy ship's corridors. Alien soldiers rushed to meet them, snarling and shooting with strange energy weapons, but Jason's sword cut through their ranks like fire. Every step deeper into the ship was a battle of strength and will. General Solara awaited them in the command chamber, her presence commanding and terrifying. She wore armor that gleamed like starlight and wielded a double-edged blade crackling with dark energy. Her cold eyes locked onto Jason's glowing sword, and she sneered. "You are nothing but a human fool. That sword is not meant for you." Jason raised the blade, its golden light flooding the chamber. "Maybe not, but today it chooses me." They clashed with a sound like thunder. Solara's strikes were fast and brutal, fueled by years of ruthless training and dark power. Jason blocked and parried, his strength coming not just from the sword, but from the hope of everyone who fought alongside him. The fight moved across the room, sparks flying as the two blades met again and again. Around them, the command chamber shook as the battle outside intensified. Jason saw Solara's momentary hesitation, the first crack in her cold armor. With a powerful swing, he broke through her guard, sending her blade spinning away. She stumbled, surprise and fear flashing in her eyes for the first time. Jason pressed forward, sword glowing brighter than ever. "This ends now." With one final strike, he disarmed Solara and forced her to the ground. She looked up at him, defeated but unbroken, and said softly, "You are stronger than I imagined, human. The sword chose well." Jason nodded, feeling the weight of his victory, but also the cost. The flagship began to tremble violently, the ship's systems failing as the rebels outside took control. Captain Marin's voice crackled over the comms. "Jason, we've disabled the main weapon arrays. Retreat is on. You need to get out." Jason turned, knowing the ship would soon explode. As they escaped back to the Phoenix, the rebel fleet cheered, their hope reignited. The war was far from over, but this battle had shown the galaxy something new. Humans were not weak. They were fighters, survivors, and now wielders of an ancient power that could change the fate of the stars. Jason looked at the sword, still, glowing softly in his hand, and knew that this was only the beginning of a greater journey. The Phoenix raced away from the dying flagship as explosions rocked the massive ship behind them. Jason stood on the bridge, the sword of Ordon still glowing warmly in his hands, its power humming like a heartbeat. The rebels cheered in the background, their spirits lifted by the victory that had seemed impossible just hours before. Yet, Jason knew the war was far from over. The Zarth Empire would come back stronger, angry and ready to crush any hope of rebellion. Captain Marin approached him quietly, her face serious, but proud. "You changed everything today, Jason. That sword, it's not just a weapon. It's a symbol, The galaxy will hear about this." Jason nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The sword's power was incredible, but it also came with a cost. Every time he used it, he could feel something inside him shifting, his body growing stronger, yes, but his thoughts sometimes darker, as if the sword's ancient spirit wanted more than just battle. They gathered the surviving rebels to plan their next move. The destroyed flagship had crippled the Zarth command, but it had also made them desperate. Intelligence showed the Empire was calling for reinforcements from far corners of space. Jason knew the fight would only get harder. He walked among his crew, seeing tired faces, some missing limbs, others haunted by loss. Yet none gave up. They believed in him and the sword's power. One evening, as Jason held the sword under the stars, he thought of the countless worlds suffering under the Zarth's rule. He remembered the first time Solara laughed at him, mocking the human for touching what she believed no one could. That laughter fueled his determination. He would not just fight for survival. He would fight to free every enslaved world. Word spread across the galaxy about the human who pulled the sword of Orden, defeating a Zarth general and turning the tide of battle. Allies from distant systems sent support. Some still doubted humans, but many saw hope in Jason's courage. As the rebel fleet grew, Jason trained harder, learning the sword's secrets. It taught him more than just fighting. It revealed ancient knowledge about energy, defense, and even the balance between power and mercy. His team became stronger too, inspired by his will and the sword's legend. Months later, the Zarth returned, with a massive fleet, determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. The rebels prepared for the biggest battle of their lives. Jason stood at the front, the sword of Orden blazing like a sun in his grip. The sky filled with ships, laser fire, and the thunder of engines. The fight was brutal and fierce. Ships exploded, stars were swallowed in fire, and heroes fell. But Jason's presence inspired everyone. With each strike of the sword, he turned the enemy's strength against them, breaking through shields and defenses thought unbreakable. The final moment came when Jason faced the new Zarth commander in a duel of skill and will. The sword glowed bright, matching the commander's dark blade. Their fight echoed across the battlefield, clashes of light and shadow, hope and despair. Jason's determination, born from the laughter that once mocked him, burned brighter. With one powerful blow, he ended the fight, forcing the Zarth commander to surrender. The rebellion won. The galaxy watched as Jason raised the sword of Ordun high, a symbol of human courage and strength that no enemy could break. The humans were no longer weak, no longer underdogs. They were heroes, leaders, and warriors whose spirit would echo across the stars forever. Jason knew the road ahead was long, but for the first time, he believed freedom was within reach. The laughter that once mocked him had become a memory, a spark that lit a new future for all.